Hi everyone, today we're going to go through IXL Assignment URT, Volume of Cubes and Prisms. So here we have our formulas for volume. If you don't already have these in your notes, pause the video and either take a screenshot or write this down in your notebook because it is really easy to get, formulas mixed up because they are pretty similar and you want to make sure that you're using the right formula for the right problem, the right shape. On the left here, to find the volume of a cube or a rectangular prism, we use the same formula, and that is length times width times height. To find the volume of a triangular prism, our formula is volume is equal to 1/2 base times height times length. In both of these cases, because we're finding volume and we're multiplying 3 different side lengths, we need to ensure that our labels are always units cubed, units to the 3rd power, because we're multiplying 3 sides. All right, let's get to practicing. You may find that our practice today is a little bit longer than most, but that's because I wanted to make sure that we can go through examples for each figure and have a variety so you can see exactly all the different types you may come across on IXL. So first, let's begin with cubes. Right up here in the top right, we have our formula. We are asked to find the volume of this cube. One thing that, alerts me, this is a cube, this is a 3-dimensional square, is because all of the sides are the same. That means it is a cube. Let's go ahead and label our different sides. So first, we have our length, and then our width and our height. And with the cube, it doesn't really matter which one's which because they're all the same, right? Once your information's labeled, we can substitute, so we can plug these numbers into our formula. So to find the volume, we're going to multiply the length, which is 1, times the width, which is 1, times the height, which is 1. Well, 1 times 1 is 1, times 1 is 1. So the volume of this cube is 1, and then our label was yards, so yards cubed. So 1 cubic yard is the volume. All right, some examples that you may come across instead of giving you a picture or a figure, it may have everything typed out with words. Each side of a cube is 2 yards long. What is the volume of the cube? So remember, with the cube, all 3 sides are the same. So when it tells us that each side is 2 yards long, that means the length is 2, the width is 2, and the height is 2. We can use that. We just wrote out our formula right here to find the volume. You can multiply in any order. We have a property and math that tells us when it's pure multiplication. So there's nothing else going on, no addition, subtraction, division. It's just straight up multiplication. You can multiply in any order. I'm just going to go left to right in this case because they're all 2s, so it doesn't matter anyways. 2 times 2 is 4, and then 4 times 2 is 8. So our volume is 8 yards cubed, or 8 cubic yards. They already have the label for us, so all you would need to type into IXL would be your number, which is 8. The volume is 8. All right. One more in cubes. The volume of this cube is 27 cubic inches. What is the value of A? What did you notice was different about this one? If you need to, read it again. It gives us the volume. It's telling us the answer. The volume is 27 cubic inches, and we want to find the value of A, which if we look at our picture here, that means we want to know the side length. There's a couple different ways that you could solve this. Let's go ahead, because it's multiple choice, and kind of work it backwards. So we're going to take each one of these answers and see which one would result in a volume of 27. So for the first one, because it's a cube, all three sides are the same. So the length would be 1, the width would be 1, and the height would be 1. 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. That's not our answer. How about for 2 inches? The length would be 2, the width would be 2, and the height would be 2, because it's a cube, so they're all the same. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. Nope. All right, how about 3? 3 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. Ooh, that's what we were looking for, right? Just to make sure I don't want my SMART score to go down, I'm going to check the final answer. Might as well, right? 5 times 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 5 is 125. So yep, only one answer matched, which means to get a volume of 27 cubic inches, our side length would have to be 3 inches. All right, let's work with rectangular prisms. Now remember, rectangular prisms use the same formula. The difference is, in this case, because it's a rectangle, all of your sides are not going to be the same. There will be different. So first off, let's go ahead and label them. Our length would be the longest side, so 6 feet. Our width would be our shorter side at the bottom here, 2 feet. And then our height is how tall it is, 4 feet. Let's substitute those into our formula. So volume is equal to our length of 6 feet, our width of 2, and our height of 4. Now, you remember how a little bit ago I told you when it is pure multiplication, it doesn't matter the order? Let's go ahead and prove that now. First off, let's just solve it by multiplying from left to right. So 6 times 2 would be 12, and then 12 times 4 is 48. So our volume is 48. But let's say I wanted to multiply in a different order, because sometimes, like in this case, I'm like, you know what? It's a little bit harder to multiply 12 times 4, but I know if I have a big number and I have to multiply it by 2, that's easier for me. So I'm going to multiply 6 times 4 first. 6 times 4 is 24. And then 24 times 2 is 48. So right there, we just proved that when it's all multiplication, you can multiply in any order. So if that's something you would like to do, go for it. If you just want to be a creature habit like I usually am and just go left to right, that's okay too. But our answer is the volume is 48 cubic feet. The volume of this rectangular prism is 135 cubic meters. What is the value for you? So what are we looking for this time? We're looking for one of our side lengths. This is another one where we're given the answer, we're given the volume, and we need to find the side length. Now, you have 2 options on how to solve this. One of them is like we did a little bit ago with cubes, where you take all of your answers, you plug them in, and see which one gives you the answer of 135. Or there's a second way you can solve it. That's what I'm going to show you this time around. Let's go ahead and start off by labeling our figure again. So our length is the longer side, which is 9. The width is the shorter side of 5. And then our height is what we don't know. Our height is our U. I'm going to, just like normal, substitute those into my formula. Only this time, I know the volume. So instead of having the letter V, the variable V, I'm going to put the number 135 because that is the volume. and the length is 9. The width is 5. And the height is a variable u, because we're trying to find it. Now, what we can do here is we have an equation that we can solve. We have an equation with one variable that we need to get by itself. We got to figure out what that u stands for. So first thing we always want to do is see if there's any simplification that needs to happen. In this case, I do have some. 9 times 5, I need to do that multiplication first. So 135 is equal to 9 times 5, which is 45 u. Now we have a one-step equation. What can we do to solve for u? What can we do to get u by itself? Well, currently we have multiplication, 45 times u. The inverse, the opposite of multiplication, would be division. We can divide both sides by 45. 135 divided by 45 is 3. 45 divided by 45 is 1. So we're just left with u, which means that third side length would be 3 meters long. All right, guys, we're into our last shape now, so we just have a few more examples left. Your final shape that you might see on IXL would be a triangular prism. If we look up in the corner, we have our formula, because this is a different formula, it's a different shape. And that is 1/2 times the base times the height times the length. Just like before, let's start off with labeling our information. So our base would be that bottom piece right here. That would be 10 feet. Our length would be the side here, 7 feet. And then our height is this dotted line telling us how tall it is. That would be 10 feet. All right, substitute these into the formula. It doesn't matter that it's a different formula. The basic principles of formulas is the same. You label the information you give, you substitute it in, and solve. We don't know the volume, so that stays a variable. The 1/2 is part of the formula. We need to put that there. And then it's multiplied by our base, which is 10, our height, which is 10, and our length, which is 7. All right, I'm going to bring that rule back again, that when it's pure multiplication, you can go in any order. I think this applies really well to this, because when you multiply something by a half, you're cutting it in half. You're essentially dividing it by 2. So I would pick a nice even number and multiply that by a half first to make the fraction a little less scary, to make it a little bit easier. So right here, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do 1/2 times 10 first, because I know that half of 10 is 5. When you multiply something by a half, that's the same thing as dividing by 2. So 1/2 times 10 is 5. So then we're left with 5 times 10 times 7. 5 times 10 would be 50. And then we have 50 times 7, which is 350 feet cubed. So your numbers may get a little large with volume, but that's okay. You can do it. And looky there, that is an answer choice. Perfect. All right. Here we have a different triangular prism. This one's not multiple choice. We have to type our answer in. What is the volume? First things first, label your diagram. And even though you guys can't physically label on your paper that you have, you could label like this. Look at it and say, okay, well, my base, oops, wrong color. My base would be 5. My height would be 7. And my length would be 5. So that's another one where it's like, okay, You can just label it like I did right here because you don't have a picture to write on. Let's substitute. Let's put those in our formula. Volume is equal to 1/2 times the base, which is 5, the height, which is 7, and the length, which is 5. Okay, when I look at this, do you have any even numbers where it would be easy to multiply by 1/2? I don't. So it may be one that's like, okay, we might wait till last or see if when we multiply another set of numbers, I would get an even number. So it doesn't always work, but it's a trick to look for. If we multiply 5 times 7, that would be 35. Let's go ahead and do that. So 5 times 7 right here is 35. I'm going to go ahead and multiply that by 5 again. Let's see if I can get an even number at all. So then 35 times 5 would be 175. Okay, didn't work out, but that's okay. Oh, when you're multiplying something by 1/2, remember that's the same thing as dividing by 2. So we're going to divide 175 by 2. Let's work that out just in case a little refresher on division is needed. So we're going to divide 175 by 2 because when you multiply by 1/2, it's the same thing. So 175 divided by 2. Well, 2 can't go into 1. Can 2 go into 17? Yeah, 8 times, because 2 times 8 is 16. So you bring down the 16 and subtract. 17 minus 16 would be 1. Bring down your 5. How many times can 2 go into 15? 7 times, because 2 times 7 is 14. And we're left with 1. Now, we're wanting to put our answer in either a whole number or a decimal. Remember that when we're dividing and we want to put our answer as a decimal, we add a decimal and a 0. And then bring that decimal straight up. Your 0 straight down. How many times can 2 go into 10? 5 times. That means our volume is 87 and 5/10 cubic centimeters. Okay. We have one final problem. The volume of this triangular prism is 210 cubic feet. What is the value of D? What are we being asked to find here? One of our side lengths. Yeah, we're given the volume. We're told that our volume is 210 cubic feet. And we want to find the value of D, which just so happens to be our height. Let's label the rest of our information. Our base is 10, and our length is 7. Once again, substitute, only this time we know the volume. So instead of the letter V, it's going to be our answer volume of 210 cubic feet is equal to 1/2 times our base, which is 10, times our height, which we don't know about yet. Probably should make that a D because that's what the problem says, times our length, which is 7. Okay, we can multiply in any order, and that's what we need to do first. Before we can solve for D, we got to simplify. We got to do all that multiplication. I'm going to choose to multiply 1/2 times 10 because 10 is an even number. That's really easy to multiply by 1/2. That's really easy to divide by 2. So 1/2 times 10, 10 divided by 2 would be 5. So we have 5 times D times 7. Remember, you can multiply in any order when it's pure multiplication. So if we have 5 times D times 7, because I can multiply in any order, we can go ahead and multiply 5 times 7. which would be 35. So 210 is equal to 35 times D. Now that all that multiplication's done, that side is simplified, let's solve our equation for D. How do we get D by itself? Work on the inverse. We have 35 times D. The inverse of that is division. We're going to divide both sides. So 210 divided by 35 is 6. So the height of this triangular prism is 6 feet. Okay, guys, thanks for sticking with me on that. I hope seeing all of those examples helped you. Remember, you can always go back and rewatch an example or rewatch a portion of it. Of course, you can take notes and have it in your notebook to refer back to as well. If you have any questions, reach out to your teacher, but it's your turn to go work on IXL assignment URT. All right, good luck.